Thank you everyone for coming. Let's call the meeting to order. And first item of business is adopting an agenda. I need a motion to adopt our agenda.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Got a motion from Larry. Second? From Tina?
Yep.
Got a second? Those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? We have an agenda. Motion carries. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In our district, we like to share good things that are happening within the school district and the community as a whole. Anyone have any good things they'd like to share with us?
I'd like to make an announcement that Governor Parson, I haven't heard everything, we were in a meeting, but restrictions were released or lifted starting next week. So we have a lot to learn about how we're going to react to that. So we have some discussions to make, and as we determine how we're going to respond to that. So that's good news for our economy, and hopefully for us to be able to do things sooner in the future.
Good.
I think you got a board member who's his birthday today.
Thanks, Phil.
48.
And you didn't even tell us last month, so we didn't even bring you a cake.
Nah, that's all right.
It's not good news, Larry's leaving, but the good news is Larry's gonna be around here to help
I'll
us.
still be around.
So-
It's good news that we have quality board members, administration, faculty, staff, and a community to support this school. And I know, I've been here a long time, but I know leaving, it's in good hands and it'll be just fine. So,
We're gonna miss you.
Well, we will move along. Do we have any statements from patrons? Who has the list?
We do not.
None. All right. So, one last action item for the board as it exists, and that is to approve the election results that are in. I need a motion to approve the official election results.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second? Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Board no longer exists, so we need to swear in some new members. If those elected, Shalina and Barb and John, would stand in front of the podium over there. Shannon will swear you in.
That'd be perfect.
Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Missouri,
and the Constitution of the State of Missouri,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of school director
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of school director
in and for the St. James R1 School District, County of Phelps, State of Missouri,
in and for the St. James R1 School District, County of Phelps, State of Missouri,
to the best of my ability according to law.
to the best of my ability according to law.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
With that. Do what? Oh, I got a name tag, it's empty. Okay. See you, man. Thanks. Congratulations.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you, Larry.
He's really leaving us.
Not saying, huh?
Great stuff.
All right. Well, in accordance with board policy, Dr. Johnson, you have the floor to
So,
appoint board members.
moving on to item C on the agenda here for organization of the board, I will accept nominations for the office of president for the board.
I nominate Carl Bear as president of the board.
Okay, we have a nomination for Carl. Are there any other nominations? If not, I'll close nominations. So Carl Bear has been nominated to serve as president for the Board of Education. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations, Carl, continuing to be our board president. So looking forward to you continuing to lead us.
Thank you.
So now, I will now accept nominations for the office of vice president for the Board of Education.
I'd like to nominate Tina Spurgeon.
Are there any other nominations? Okay. If not, I'll close nominations. Tina Spurgeon has been nominated to serve as vice president for the board. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Now I'll turn it over to our president.
Thank you very much. Okay, we are continuing with board positions, and we need a board secretary. It must be appointed before July 15th, but it's customary that we do it now. And I would like to nominate Shannon Parsons to continue as our board secretary. Any other nominations? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Shannon, you get to sit with us month after month again. Also, we need a board treasurer, and it's customary that our administrative district treasurer serve in that role. And Susan has been serving in that role, so I'd like to nominate Susan Douglas to be our board treasurer. Any other nominations? Those in favor of appointing Susan as our treasurer, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? We have a treasurer. That was simple enough. We have a new board. Now we just need to be organized. Last item along with that is an MSBA delegate. Per our board policies, we will appoint a board delegate to serve, represent us at the state board in their advocacy, and they will also serve as the regional action, on the regional action committee.
I nominate Carl.
All right, Dina nominated myself. Anyone else like to make a nomination? Okay, those in favor of me say, continuing to serve as the delegate, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I will do the best I can to represent us at the state level. Next item on the list is presentations, and we have a change order for our construction project. And who's going to start first? Dr. Johnson?
I think Brandon Day
John? Brandon?
and team.
We're doing great. Been a long time since I've seen you.
I know, right? It's been, what, an hour? So we had a really great walkthrough of the project today. We were there, Branco was there, Merlin and Carl were there, and project is coming along great. But as with any project, there are some change orders to address some issues that come up during the process. So I don't know what you're looking at there, but hopefully in front of you, you've got change order number 5. And there's a couple of items on here I'd like to bring your attention to. It's got a total of 11 items. And prior to this, of course, this is change order 5. So there have been 4 previous change orders, all totaling about $34,438. This change order 5, is in the amount of $81,346. So that looks huge in comparison to the first 4 only being $34,000. So I want to go over a couple of these items with you. The first one is a credit of $9,341 because in that old part of the building, there's some subflooring that we weren't sure we were going to be able to reuse, and we can reuse it. So we weren't able to add, we didn't need to add new subflooring. So that's been really good. So we were able to save there. We had some unsuitable soils in the atrium between the oldest building and the rest of your high school that had to be dug out and replaced. That was a tedious little task, but about $14,680 for that line item. And then we ran into some asbestos. We, as in the design team, the contracting team, ran into asbestos. So there's 2 line items on here for asbestos removal in this oldest building. One is in the amount of $23,876, and the other one is in the amount of $3,025. So all things that need to be done. All in all, I think these are really needed items and of value to the school to move forward with this change order. So in addition to this, you should also have a PDF of something with the title at the top called Contract Documents Index. Do you all have that as well? Okay, so I wanted to go through this a little bit with you as well. So what this is a line item of every change that has been identified on this project. Most of them are in black, which means they need to be addressed. And if you look at the columns, you can see that there's a change order request by the contractor on the far left. Some of those get turned into a change order, and you can see the change order number in the second column. And then if it's an action to the early childhood or the high school, that's there, the issue date. The description is there, and then whether it was approved or not. So there's what? I don't know how many line items there are on here, about 41. You'll see several of them are also gray. So the gray ones are things that you don't even hear about. Those are things that either Brandco works out with the subs and just makes it go away, or Brandco brings it to us and together we work with them and we make it go away, we find another solution, or it never becomes a change order that goes to you. The ones that do become change orders then are identified and put into the cost accepted column. So if you go down to the bottom, you'll see that there's been a total of $332,210 worth of items identified, but only $115,000 of that has actually been brought to you all as a change order. So that's a lot of behind the scenes that you guys never even know about, but I thought it would be good to just kind of pull the curtain back and show you here's kind of all that's been happening behind the scenes. The other thing I think is interesting is if you were to just Google the average construction change order amount, you'll see Google will present you with somewhere between 8 and 14% is the average cost of change orders on a construction project. We are currently at 0.83%, less than 1%, which is extremely good, especially on a project as complicated as what we're dealing with here. We strive really hard to keep change orders below 2 or 2.5%, and that's going to be our goal on this one as well, and I think we're well on our way to doing that. But it takes a good team, takes a good owner, takes a good contractor, takes good subs, but we are all in this together to make that work. So, all good news, but we are presenting you with what looks like a really big change order right now, which is more than double the first 4 combined. But all in all, I really think we're doing excellent on this project from a change order perspective. And I wanted you to see everything that's been kind of going on behind the scenes there. So all in all, we've identified $138,000 worth of credits along the way that you guys have gotten through change orders. So that's all good stuff. And that's on those far right columns that you have in front of you. So as with any project, especially working with this building as old as it is at the high school, there's going to be unforeseen issues. And you can see there's a column there that shows the value of the unforeseen conditions we have encountered, whether it's asbestos or it's unsuitable soils or it's things that we didn't know we were going to find or the contractor didn't know they were going to find when they got into it. So all of that is identified there for you, and I just wanted to be here to explain and then to ask you guys if you have any questions about any of it.
Any questions?
Okay?
How often will we see one of these?
Change orders? Typically, we bring them up every month or so to keep the contractor moving, because until this is signed and approved, it holds them up. So when items get identified, we want to figure out if it needs to be passed on to the owner or not, and then get that in change order soon. So typically, it's about a monthly thing. Sometimes they're really small, but it's just because we're trying to keep the project moving.
And 2 of the big ones have been kind of asbestos and unsuitable soils. And I've talked with Sean and Eric, and we feel like we're kind of over that hump. So that's good news.
We thought we were out of asbestos the last time, but the school never ceases to amaze me.
Where it's hitting.
Right.
So.
Right. But yeah, good question.
But if there's any more, they did it really good, so I think we should be good.
Yeah, we've torn about everything out, so.
Yeah. Other questions? Nothing?
Appreciate it.
You bet.
Appreciate you talking to it. I can tell everyone walking around, yes, there's a huge mess out there, but it looks much better, and you can really see what it's going to look like
It's coming together nicely.
when it's done.
Absolutely.
As far as the progress update, we're on schedule to meet the dates that you guys are needing. We actually, Harold had given Merlin some good news today. He's trying to get him into more space than what he expected to have by August. So everything's going well. Carl even had some stuff on his list that we fixed before he ever got a chance to tell us about it. So we were ahead of him even. So other than that, there was, speaking of change orders, there was a large change order that came up for plaster repair with the, many of you've seen the shape of the plaster in the old building, to the tune of how much? 103,000. You guys had one of your larger subcontractors that could not bond the project. We've tried and tried and tried to get them to bond the project. We're going to make them credit the amount they had in their bid back to the project for that bond. Unfortunately, Branco will be taking the risk for that subcontractor finishing the job, but I don't have any problem with that because I release his checks. So we're willing to do that for the betterment of the project and the betterment of the school district. I don't think it's going to be an issue. So I think his insurance company just thought he might have bit off a little more than he could chew, but he seems to be fully capable. And we use that to offset, between that and the contingency, $103,000 that would normally be a change order, that at least a major portion of that you guys would have seen. So other than that, everything's going well. Sounds like we're going to have kids back, so there'll be some challenges there, but nothing we can't get around.
So as far as meeting, like the deadlines, early childhood should still be ready to go come August.
Yes.
And then
We have a superintendent dedicated to that job to get it finished. His name's Waylon. If you haven't met him, he's kind of a big guy walking around with a Branco hat on, so.
what about the high school? With
Same,
all the
that's where we're
unforeseen-
given more area than what we'd expected originally, so.
Yeah, I'd ask about the choir room, which we are anticipating that being ready to go,
Right.
which we didn't know for a while, so. I'm assuming that those that we had out of the old high school building will remain out of the old high school building to
Correct.
start the year. And we have already made contact with the Christian Church for an extension. And all the other buildings that we presently have students will remain until we're finished.
Right. And so far, we've dodged all, well, almost all, mostly all of the COVID-related delays. So that's a good thing. There was a few mechanical parts, MEP parts that are in delay, but they're not holding up anything, but they should be here shortly. So dodged a bullet there. So any other questions?
Okay,
Thank you.
I think we're
All
done.
right.
Thank you very much, Sean. Appreciate you coming. Next item on the agenda is our library report. I think we have a bunch of our media center consultants to talk to us about library or media center.
Carl, probably need to approve the change order,
Is that not in the action?
and we did not put that in action.
Should have been in the
Yeah,
action.
we should have had that.
Okay,
Yeah, we put that
We'll have
early,
to-
and we should have put that, should have had a change, or a agenda change to adopt,
All
when we
right.
adopted the agenda.
well, let's back up. I thought that was down in action, so before we do the presentation, you can stay right there, it won't take long. We do need to approve that change order, so I would like a motion to approve change order number 5.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion. Got a second? Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
We messed up, we should have put.
Motion carries. Approve the changes that we've already implemented. All right, now we're on to the library report.
All right, so our board report should have been in your packet, so we're just gonna hit some of the things that we wanted to point out and bring to, let you know how our libraries are going and things that we've done. So this past year was a very great year for our libraries. We were able to meet a few times. We're working on our policy and procedure manual, It hasn't been updated since 2006, so we are working hard at getting that updated. We were able to do that. We were also able to, as a team, travel to a couple conferences. We were blessed to be able to go to a national conference. That's the first time since I've been in the library that I've been able to do a national conference, the American Association of School Librarians. We all three were able to go to and got a lot of knowledge through that. We hosted a book giveaway last week. With all of the school closing, we wanted to get books in the hands of kids. And so we were able to, through the Caring Center and the Friends of the Library and many other donations from other people, we were able to have a book giveaway last week. We gave away about 1,327 books to students throughout our district. Anybody was welcome to come. It was a great day for that. We also had a new thing this year. We hosted something called Drop Everything and Read district-wide. It's where everybody across the district had 20 minutes set aside from Tiger Cubs to central office, I believe, set aside 20 minutes and read, and we felt like that was a great thing. So this year we're going to try to do it monthly. We're going to see if we can get it done monthly. So at the high school, I had a couple things that I did this past year. My visits from classroom teachers, library visits increased. Like we were every other week. I had the ELA classrooms came to the library to do book circulation. I did lessons with them about various different things, digital citizenship, using our online database, which has the use of it has really increased. And we did a project through StoryCorps, which was really exciting. It was the Great Thanksgiving Listen. The kids were introduced to the project through, they were able to interview an older generation. They could pick anybody during Thanksgiving, and the stories were uploaded to the National Archives. So that was pretty exciting. My library tech students, this year we're doing some different things. We're going to incorporate tutoring into my library class, but we also are still doing book promotions. We did over 130 promotion projects this past year. So this year, the library is the help desk for our technology department in the high school, and so that is a large portion of my day is with the technology help. But we're continuing on with everything that we've been doing, including lots of visits from the classes to learn different lessons and things like that. All right, I think that was it for the high school. So, Erin?
Okay, I'm just going to kind of cover the middle school stuff since Michelle talked about what we did as a district. This year, as you know, was our first year with the iPads. That really, for me, took up a lot of my time. I spent most of my days trying to help the students with the iPad and teachers with iPad issues as much as I could before we got the tech department involved. You know, I tried to kind of head them off that way. They weren't constantly running across town trying to fix things. I introduced the kids to, I think Michelle mentioned this, the new Sora app on the iPads. It's the digital reading. That came in super handy during the closure. I know that I, via email and Zoom, helped a lot of students get logged on and check out a book to read digitally. I had my biggest ever book fair during Parent-Teacher Conference Week, so that was pretty successful. And the kids always love that. And I try to do it during Parent-Teacher Conference Week to get more parent involvement, so that has proven to be pretty successful for me. I started a March Madness book tournament, so kind of, you know, merging basketball and books, and the kids were really into it. I really targeted my 7th graders, and I was working closely with one of the 7th grade reading teachers. We were in, I think, our 2nd round of the book picks whenever school closed. So I'm hoping to next year be able to pick that up again and maybe even do it as a, not in March, but a start of the year. Since they were so into it, I really wanted to get the kids. They were interested in the book trailers, and I mean, I just couldn't keep the books on my shelves that I was sharing out to them. Next year, I plan to be part of, you know, the one-to-one again and help the tech department as much as I can. Like I said, that really, I think it's because the kids are over here and it's their first year to be able to take iPads home, and they need somebody to kind of help walk them through it. I am excited. I'm on the Mark Twain reading committee next year. So that is 9 librarians from around the state. So I will be serving on that to come up with the final Mark Twain books for next year, which is the book award for 4th through 6th grade. So I think everything else is there in your packet. So Hope will take over.
Well, I am very happy to share that even though our momentum was cut short this year, we saw a lot of very positive growth in the elementary school library. So I don't want to take time to read everything that's available to you in the packet, but there were a couple of things that I did want to highlight and give a little bit more information to. So the first thing is we had 85 4th and 5th grade students read enough books to participate in the Mark Twain Reading Award, which is that state reading award that Aaron was just talking about. That's a huge number because it's very independent. They have to have a lot of self-motivation to drive themselves to become part of that. So every year I'm just a little bit nervous that I'm not going to be able to motivate them enough, and they're just not going to show that interest. I'm going to have to rethink my presentation of it. But the past several years, they have just been taking the challenges, and they've even been moving further along than any of my predictions. So I'm very, very proud of that. And the reason why I chose to highlight this is I want to point out that the elementary school has built such a very strong and positive reading culture in our building. And Mr. Copeland and Mrs. James Miller are very, very supportive of any ideas that I have. They're willing to back any reading initiatives or promotions or incentives that I come up with. They also, in my conversations with them, they are constantly reassuring me too of all the reading that they see happening in the classrooms. So I really felt like I needed to brag about that. And just to underscore that, I thought, well, what does that really look like? And so I looked at some statistics that we had, and in our Renaissance Place statistic, our students read, according to that, 24,839 books from August to March. I think that's low, and here's why. Because that number is only the books that students read and took an AR test on. That's not the books that they read and they didn't take tests on. That's not the teacher read-alouds. That's not what I read to them in the library or the RTI or the intervention teachers or any other reading that happened. That's not even the books that were read to Tiger Cubs kindergarten and the first quarter first graders. So adding in all of those books, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that we actually read more than 50,000 books this year. And if you look at our statistics, our circulation statistics were a little over 54,000. So I think that's a verified claim to make. Again, this is a huge accomplishment, and I'm really, really proud to see the payoff for the work that we do to promote reading in our building. The other thing that I wanted to draw your attention to was the link that I put in your board packet for the DESE Exemplary School Library Program. So if you haven't had a chance to look at that link, I do encourage you to do so because it is what, in the state's eyes, a quality and exemplary program looks like in Missouri. Several of the indicators require administrative intervention, and what I mean by that is it's decisions that are out of the librarian's hand. We have to have it given to us or given permission to it by the administration. In the elementary school, those items are already in place. And so after I got the final document for last year, I did do a self-analysis of the elementary school library. And I did see some areas where we could do some growth, and so I started to implement some different things in the library this year. And one of those things that made the biggest difference was we implemented flexible scheduling. And what that just means is we, the library, changed focus, and we became more responsive to what the students and teachers needed instead of asking the teachers to work their classes in around what the library schedule was. It was wildly successful. I had very positive feedback from the teachers. It meant kids could come to the library when they needed books, not just because it was Wednesday at 9 o'clock. So our class visit numbers declined slightly, but the individual visits skyrocketed. Some kids we saw every single day, other kids we may not see for 2 weeks. But it also allowed me to hit another indicator in that I became more of a collaborational instructional partner with the teachers too. So I was able to go into the classrooms and spend more quality time and do a better job of teaching elementary school students beginning research skills. So it was just a very, very good thing. I was a little sad it was cut short, and then when we started seeing how the pandemic was going to affect the library program, my first thought was, well, we're just going to have to take this huge step backwards, and we're going to have to abandon this and go back to that rigid, structured, fixed schedule. So I was a little upset about that, but the more I kept reading and the more I kept thinking things through, I think that it's actually going to turn out to be a really good thing that we started that implementation this year, and I think it's going to work for us for next year. So I have some other projects in the works. I'm kind of waiting to see what it's going to look like and what my restrictions and guidelines are going to be next year. Elementary school kids are really touchy, so I have to keep that in mind, and we'll do what we can do there. It's going to be a challenging year, but I'm trying to approach it with a growth mindset that instead of the challenges, hopefully it's just going to highlight areas that we may have overlooked that need improved. So until next year.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone have any specific questions that they'd like either to ask any of the ladies? All right. Thank all three of you very much. The next item we have in presentations in alternative schools. So Mr. Metcalf, a rundown of what we did.
First, I'd like to apologize for my appearance. I feel like a Geico caveman. This is the same haircut I had in 6th grade, but I had it was paired with a thin and wispy mustache. So. I've changed some of the things here, so I'll probably go over most of it. But you'll notice this year, opposed to the last, I used to compare 2 years. I put the last 5 years worth of data on here because the alternative schools changed. In 15-16, we didn't have credit recovery, daytime credit recovery. So you'll notice 16, 17, 17, 18, and 18, 19 had much higher enrollment numbers because I was counting the daytime credit recovery kids. So if you look in 1920, we had 44 kids enrolled, which is comparable to 15-16, we had 47. So we're kind of back to what we would have been. Attendance this year was 87, which is pretty much what it is every year. It's actually a little bit higher. We had 25 graduates this year, 2 drops. Referrals were a little down, which is probably a good thing, but we also missed a quarter of the school year, so probably would have been 7 or 8. We'll just prorate it a little bit. I had 13 students that recovered credit in night school this year compared to 54 last year. Those lower numbers, I think, are in part due to going from the 10 block to the 7. We have less Fs, which is less credits to recover. And I would say that we probably have less kids failing classes also, which is a good thing as well. I currently have 23 students enrolled in summer school. I think when I sent this out, it had 34. I had to drop 11 today because they weren't doing any work. Virtual summer school is not ideal. Kids need help. They can't come in. I'm in the basement of the central office now, and I have like 3 or 4 kids a day that I let come in and get help. But I can't get them all to come in, and I couldn't have them all in anyway, I guess. But Missouri Options Program. Students can graduate by they have to complete government, personal finance, and health. They have to be a full-time student, but half of their hours can come from working a job, 15 hours a week, attending college, or volunteering. And we did have 5 students graduate through that program this year, that's a little up from what it had been. That program is meant for the kids who are really, really behind, and it's impossible for them to graduate just by credits alone. So we've been doing that program for, I'd have to look, but it's probably been 7 or 8 years. What's new? I added some stuff that won't be on the program review I filled out. We did move to the Golden Age Center after Christmas. It's a great space, but I am looking forward to coming back at some point. I don't like being so far away from everything. We have been focusing the last year or 2 on reducing tobacco use in school, and it is making a difference. I don't know if it's helping outside of school, but we're having less kids bring tobacco to school. If we see it in their pocket, we have them empty their pockets and take it from them. So, and I feel like that's a good thing. We are still mainly focusing on juniors and seniors, but we did bring more freshmen and sophomore in this year, and we actually brought one middle school student for a short period of time, which actually worked out all right. We also began implementing an OSS program this year for the long-term suspended kids. We created a way for them to earn credits without falling behind their peers, and also got a few of them back into school a little sooner. What we did is when they were suspended, after maybe, I don't know, maybe 10 days, I think it was 10 days, we would let them come to night school. And if they did well in night school, I would let them come to the alternative school. And then when their suspension's up, they can return to the high school. And it worked out well for, I believe, 2 students, and one of them graduated. So, I also created a way for our more successful alternative school students to obtain a regular school diploma instead of the alternative school diploma. To get that, they had to have 26 credits, they had to have a 90% attendance, and then they had to have either a 2.5 GPA or pass an exit exam. The exit exam thing got waived this year because, you know, we didn't make it that far. And then when they finish school, if they finish school early before graduation, they have to have a job working 30 hours a week, and they got to provide me with pay stubs. And I did have several that were doing that at the time we closed. So, I mean, I really didn't think I would be able to get them to bring in their pay stubs, but they were good about it. We attended a job fair at the Caring Center and got introduced to the WIOIA program, and we ended up getting 2 of my students jobs through that program, and then more weren't quite old enough to do the job program but will next year. And that also allows kids to get money for college if they want to go. And that's focused on students who have something that would hinder them from having success. Low income, homeless, IEP, things like that. Next year, we're switching back to Play-Doh for our curriculum at the alt school. We've used about 4 programs in the last 5 years. I'm in a constant search for something that I like, and I can't find it. So we're going back to what we're already paying for, which is Play-Doh. Good thing, though, this year we started, at the end of the year, we have 5 teachers, personal finance, English 2, Algebra 1, government, and biology, all the mandatory EOC courses. We have those teachers creating virtual courses that the alternative school can use, or they could be used in any virtual setting. And this is going to be more aligned with what they actually teach, and I think it's going to, I've seen Teresa Berry is almost done with hers, and it looks really good. It's better than anything that we've bought, and we're going to own this. We want to pay for it. And what I would like to see happen is us to have the whole, every credit that a kid would need to graduate made by our own teachers rather than buying it from an outside vendor. I still have Mr. Kraft teaching our job skills class, teaches kids how to balance a checkbook, look for a job, fill out application, build a resume. We do a little grocery shopping and cooking. That got cut short because it's an end of the year activity, but we did get a couple meals in. The grant we get from the bank, school partnership grant, we took the kids to Frisco's this year. Very enjoyable for them. And we had the owner came out and gave a little talk to the kids on what he looks for in an employee. Other than that, I don't really have anything unless you have questions. No questions. All right, thank you.
Questions for Tim?
Thank you, Tim.
Sounds great, Tim.
My only comment is thank you very much for the flexibility that you show, Tim.
What?
I said my only comment is thank you very much. The flexibility and the creativeness that you've put in the program really shows. We have one more presentation, and that is from our gifted teacher, Ms. Rachel Hitt.
Evening. It's nice to see everybody. So we have maintained our required number of students that we need in our Excel program. At the time of closing, we were serving 47 students in our elementary program, which looking over, even before I started taking over it, I feel like it's probably one of the highest, if not the highest number of students we've been serving in the program. Through testing this year, we got 7 new 4th graders and 11 new 1st graders. So lots of new students. They got about 4 weeks in before we had to close, so I know that they'll be very excited when we can get back to it. So that was exciting for me to see the growth in numbers and serve more students. The main pillars of our curriculum have remained the same. A big portion of our days together are focused on our units of study and research projects that we do, which a lot of that is based off of what they want to learn more about. They have a voice in what they want to do. Greek mythology is always a heavy hitter with my kids, so they got to create a new Greek god or goddess and then write their own myth involving that god or goddess. We had ocean life and whale research, prehistoric animals, unsolved mysteries. One group wanted to do some STEM projects, so design process. They designed boats and tested them. They designed a mini golf course. One group did a little mini unit over the Iditarod, where they did some research and tracking of the mushers. So lots of fun, exciting new research projects that the kids are doing. And of course, I always appreciate the support from Victoria, because she always works with me on the best ways to incorporate the technology into those projects. Our thinking skills curriculum is still a big part of our day, so working on our critical and creative thinking and problem solving through different activities. We also have our affective lessons, which is going to be like the social emotional side, because some of our gifted students have some unique needs. So we work through that. I am going to be working over the summer of updating some of the younger student lessons. Our 4th and 5th graders have a really great curriculum that they follow, but I want to work on getting some stronger lessons for my younger ones. We work on strengthening our math and ELA skills through math challenges, journaling. We do daily vocabulary activities. I had one group that did a buddy reading with Mrs. Metcalf's 1st grade class, so my 4th graders went down and buddy read with the 1st graders. Each group also does a monthly in the news assignment for me, so they find a article that they want to share with the rest of the group, and they work on summarizing through that, which is a tough skill even with my older ones. So we work on summarizing the news article with each other. So we have some very busy and exciting days together. One group also continues to help with our recycling efforts at the elementary school. So my 3rd graders always recycle the specials teachers, classrooms, academic support, library. We had some really cool learning opportunities with our field trips as well. Unfortunately, my 4th grade group was supposed to go to the Discovery Center in Springfield, and it was right at the end of March, so they weren't able to go, so I owe them a big one next year. But 5th grade was able to go to the Science Center this year, and they did a guided program about video game design, which was really exciting for the 5th graders. So they got to create characters and write their own narrative and work on a program to design a video game. And they also got to experience virtual reality if they wanted to. Some of them chose not to, but they got to do a VR activity with the teachers there at the Science Center. And then my 2nd and 3rd graders got to go to the Magic House, and they did a guided program called Design Challenge, where they were tasked with designing a tower. They had certain materials, they had height restrictions, and then they designed it, they built it, and they had like a little wind tunnel set up for them that they could test how much wind the tower could withstand. And then of course they got to explore the Magic House afterwards. So during our closure, I did set up some seesaw classes for my kids just as an option for some of my students, and I had about half of them join in on seesaw, and we just had fun communication and activities that I had posted on there for them to do. Like one of them was I gave them some questions to interview a family member. They answered some funny, silly questions for me. They shared good news, just that kind of stuff, just to keep in touch while we were closed. And then lastly, I was kind of working with Dr. Wells through email, making sure that the board policies regarding Excel were up to date and had everything covered that we needed covered. So I think we're all good there too. So again, thank you very much for your continued support of our program at the elementary level. I love working with these kiddos, and they are very excited to come on their Excel day, so I appreciate your guys' continued support. Anybody have any questions for me?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions? Thank you, Rachel. That does it for our presentations. Next item is consent. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion from Justin,
Second.
second from Tim. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda is approved. We'll move on to discussion topics. And I think the best way is just to throw that over to you, Dr. Johnson. Spending plan for maybe
Yes.
next week before everything changes? I don't know.
Yes, so, you know, we plan, and then we have to start over. And that would be, if you guys could violate the social distancing, John would like to probably see some of this data, you know.
I reviewed it with you. I'm good.
Okay.
I'll
There's some new,
I'll jump
there's some
over.
new stuff that,
Okay.
here in a little bit, but I'll tell you when we get to that point. So, on June the 1st, you know, we got the news that we felt that was going to happen eventually when the governors announced that there were going to be massive cuts at the state level for public education, which affects every single school, not just public schools, but charter schools. Any schools receiving funds from the state for education were cut. The number that they threw around was 39% for the month of June for this transmittal, and then another 39%, possibly more, for July. Because of that, I did send out an email to the entire staff just to let them know that this is a pretty serious situation, not for just St. James, but everywhere. It does concern me, as it does every other school leader that I have spoken to. We're reeling. We're trying to figure out ways that we can be smarter with the funds that we do have. And if there's opportunities for us to save, we're trying to think up creative ways to do that. Immediately, the things that we look at that we can make some freezes to or cuts of materials and supplies. We look at those things first. Obviously, if it's a compliance issue, we still have to do some things. Core subject matter issues, we're going to use common sense. So we've asked our building administrators, we don't want to cut everything. There's needed compliance, core curricular things that we need to keep doing, because when we come back, because we're coming back, we're planning on coming back in August, unless something happens with the cases, but things are starting to feel better, especially after the governor's announcement today. Travel on PD, we're talking about that. We had some teachers that had some conferences even this summer, and we just had to say no traveling right now. So that seems like the common sense thing to do, which would include mileage, lodging, meals, and things like that. Just a reduction in doing things that we do. PD days, we try to treat our staff right and have foods and things like that. We're going to cut back on those things until we can see that money's going to be coming back. That might not be for a while. So there's a new normal, and our staff's been really great about understanding. Everybody expects this. They don't want us. It seems irresponsible for us just to keep acting like everything's okay. It's not okay. Things are not ideal right now financially. Student field trips, this is something that's going to impact students, and I hate it. It's unfortunate. But as of right now, field trips, we're planning on not doing those until we can see things could be better. And that goes along with the safety thing as well right now. Do we want students going to St. Louis, Springfield, and being with others in large groups? Probably not. And then just other things. We're just trying to use common sense, and we're developing a plan to realign funds as needed due to COVID. There are some things we might not, if we really are going to consider meals in the classrooms. Well, maybe we need to redesign some of our stipends. We do have stipends for cafeteria supervision. Well, maybe we could have those people do some other things for us, such as temperature checks, if we end up doing stuff like that. So we're just trying to get creative. Susan put together a really nice spreadsheet just to give you some ballpark figures on if you click on that basic formula calculation estimate affected by COVID, and you can see the numbers there on the top. And if you go down there, there's 4 funds. There's Prop C, the basic formula, transportation, and then the trust fund, classroom trust fund. So the Prop C is the sales tax, and the formula is where the bulk of our money comes every month. Transportation, that's that dwindling fund that we always seem to get less and less. And then the classroom trust fund is the gambling money, which, you know, the casinos are closed right now, so that's another issue for school districts. But you can see what we got in May, and then how we're projected to see a shortfall in June with the 39% reduction. Now, these are all numbers based on that 39% reduction. So you can look and see the difference between May and June. That would be around $300,000 of a reduction for June. We're looking at a very similar cut for July. So now we're looking at about $600,000 in 2 months. We don't know what anything past July is going to be. So that's one of the reasons we need to be very frugal and smart with how we are paying for things and moving forward until good news, until we start hearing better news. If you go down to the middle column of information and numbers, in March, you can see in March our estimated calculation for our budget numbers. For Prop C, we estimated that we were going to get about $1,065 for every student. We estimated we get about $6,375 for every student with the formula money. And then we estimated we get about $428 with the classroom trust fund. So then we moved to June with all the new budget numbers, and this is recommended from financial experts at the state that understand the formula and how everything works. We're looking at going down from $1,065 to $975 Prop C, and then $6,300. This is the big one. This one hurts. $6,375 was what we thought we were going to get. Now $6,111. So you can see the shortfall there, $350,000. So if you put all that together, we're looking at another $707 if this stays true all the way through the school year. We don't know. Maybe we will get some relief money. We do have the CARES money, which has come in. It's not put in this chart. So there is the CARES money, which we did get. So we're still going to be short if you look at this and you put all these numbers together. Right now we have a little under $600,000 that we received so far, which we get a little bit more. There's also some CARES money, which is in a different pot that's been distributed to the counties. It's all federal money. So we got the first pot of federal money sent to DESE, which then distributed to the schools in the CARES application, which we did that, and we have 75% of that money. We have 25 to still get 25%. And then right now we're looking at we're applying for some more money through the county CARES, and this is to help pay for the face masks which we have ordered, disinfectant, just the PPEs, anything to do with disinfectant. So you can go down and look at the extraordinary costs due to COVID. We have several different things there. And if you go on back to, this is what I was wanting John to be able to look at since he doesn't have a device. If you go to the reopening schools, this is something that was put out by the National Association of School Administrators. And this is what schools all across our country are looking at and the things that we're going to have to consider with adhering to health monitoring and cleaning, disinfectant protocols, all these things that you see there on the far left, hand sanitizer, additional cleaning that's going to be required, health screening tools, electrostatic sprayers, the foggers. And then the next thing in blue there, providing personal protective equipment, PPEs. So all those things, how are we going to do gloves and masks? Are we going to, we've already ordered some, and if there's a resurgence, if this comes back in the fall, in the winter, you know, maybe we will loosen up for a while, but then maybe we're going to have to tighten back up with the health concerns. The facilities, no-touch spaces, repurposing space, which we've been doing already. We're trying to be smart about that. And then staff. You know, been talking to Wes about if we have another closure or if we need to do a deep cleaning, we're more than likely going to need to hire more custodial staff. And these are things that we're getting all these cuts, but yet we need to do more. And so we're getting hit on both ends, and it's making things very difficult. Virtual instruction, we know that it's not good. We know it's not as good as face-to-face instruction with teachers, but we might have to go back to that, and we're going to do a better job of it. We weren't truly prepared, like most school districts, for virtual instruction. So we're putting a lot of resources into getting better with virtual instruction in case we go back to that. Transportation, we're working with Copeland Bus on how is he going to transport kids of a 69, 70 passenger bus. And I have Mr. West has been our liaison with Copeland Bus this summer. We're talking about 14 kids on a bus. That's going. So if we had to have a social distancing restriction on buses for hopefully as we get into this release that the governor has given us, maybe we don't. So that's good news. And then the food service. How are we going to feed our students? Are we going to do classroom feedings? And just how's that going to impact our staff? Do we need more food service workers? So this is just the basic reopening of schools considerations. And then if you go to the next document, this is customized just for St. James schools. And so we're looking at, and what I was able to do is a district that created something very similar to this was about twice our size, so I was able to take their data and then reduce it by half, and in some cases, based on our situation, maybe change it completely. But just looking at if we are to follow all these health and safety guidelines, that if we must do these things, so the health monitoring and cleaning, hand sanitizers for St. James schools, if we're doing what based on number of students, teachers, classrooms, and things like that, about $18,000. Disinfectant wipes, about $7,000. No touch thermometers, and we're looking at 2 per school campus, about $588. Defoggers, $15,000. Deep clean of schools after a confirmed case, if that should happen. If we bring in tons of people to have to help clean, $11,000. Hiring extra staff, I'm looking at if we just go with 5 custodians, if you go to the red one, about $125,000. So this can go on and on and on. If you look at this is pretty accurate data. Total additional expenses for St. James schools, about $381,000 just to get through COVID and to be prepared and to do all the things that we can so that our parents feel safe sending their kids to our schools. So I'm really, really hopeful that we're going to be hearing good news and better, more positive news as this summer unfolds. We're already thinking about how we can do some. We're going to talk about that in the reports coming up in the superintendent's report as far as graduation and summer school and things like that. But these are tough decisions and tough situations. We're getting less money from the state, but yet at the same time we have to be looking at ways to spend more money. And so I think the conversation across our country right now is at some point we really feel like there's got to be some sort of plan for a relief, a state or a nationwide relief for our for all schools, not just public schools, for all institutions that are educating children. So if you're receiving tax money to educate children, there needs to be some sort of relief. We feel that and we hope for that. So at this time, we don't have that. So we have to proceed as if we are going to have all these cuts, and we have to proceed as if we must consider spending all this extra money. That's tough. So any questions about the district spending plan? tough times. But we're all in this together. That's the great thing is we're bouncing ideas off each other, talking all the time with Cuba, Steelville, Rolla, Newburgh, all our surrounding schools. And we're all dealing with the same thing. We're trying to be smart with our funds. So, and being as frugal as possible. And we have to unfortunately cut some things, and in some cases cut things that are good for kids. And that's something we don't want to do. And we are looking at doing some things like that. So
That was one of my questions, like the Capturing Kids' Heart program and things like that. Are we bound into a contract for money on that, or could that, I mean, I don't,
So,
it's been taught. But
Dr.
it's-
Wells, this is a good question. Dr. Wells and I actually this week made contact with Capturing Kids' Hearts and asked for them to, we do have a contract signed, but we asked if they could pause and hold that, and maybe we can revisit that. And they've made a verbal agreement that we can step away from the trainings, which is the cost for this school year. Those are things we don't want to do, but it seems like probably the right thing to do right now. And that's a sorrowful thing for our students, for our teachers. I mean, it's great training, but it's probably the right thing to do right now. Good question. Okay. That's it on the district spending plan. Fun topic.
All right. Again, thank you for all the work you've been doing, because as you said, I understand, at least on a weekly basis, it's go back to square one and start again. Everything continues to change.
Well, I mean, just for instance, you know, we just closed our registration for summer school yesterday. And some of the reasons that we were having, you know, we were having restrictions is we didn't want to put too many kids in the classroom. Well, if we're able to bring more kids in, maybe we need to reconsider, but maybe not. Maybe we need to still be cautious. So I think we need to look a little deeper into, you know, I know Phil's done some reading. I haven't had the opportunity yet. For tomorrow, look a little bit more about what the expectations are and see what our area schools are doing, and we might consider doing something different for summer school. Maybe it'd be be able to have more kids and more teachers in. Maybe not. Maybe we keep it the way it is.
Are summer school numbers decent? Or
Summer school numbers are looking pretty good. About 50%. What do we normally have?
Around 400 at elementary.
And so where are we at right now? About 300 maybe? So we're down by about half then. And we're hoping that many of the kids that need to be there are the ones that have registered. So
That's pretty good for.
pretty good considering that there's a concern. So
Any other discussion? All right. We'll move on to action topics. The first one is district's dyslexia plan. We are required to have a dyslexia plan and approve it every year, so I'd like a motion to approve that.
I'll make the motion.
Got a motion? Got a second from Tim? Any discussion? Those in favor of approving dyslexia plan, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next action topic is our assessment calendar for next year. I'd like a motion to approve the assessment testing calendar.
I'll make the motion.
Got a motion from Tina?
Second.
Oh, Shalina? Second from Shalina. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the district professional development plan.
Make a motion.
Go ahead. Tina?
Second it.
I've got a second from Justin.
It's all
From
right.
Barb?
Either way.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't care.
Any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And we will go back to Dr. Johnson for the superintendent's report.
So first thing we have here is just an update on, Not a lot to update, although I thought it'd be appropriate to go ahead and add that we're gonna live stream our monthly. Oh, thank you, Kathy. Sorry, Brent, you didn't get anything I just said there. But, so we did add that we were going to live stream. I heard a lot of compliments last month that we did live stream. Some teachers even contacted us, said, hey, you know, I didn't know we were doing this or that, and said, thank you for live streaming. So, so that's a positive for our communication plan that we will continue. Just a few minor adjustments, nothing major. Put in there that we try to communicate a little more on School Messenger with some very important announcements. But other than that, the communication plan staying about the same. Is there anything that you guys see that you'd like to, we could add to it? We can add to it any time. This is a working document. It's not a policy, it's a procedure. So if there's anything that you would like to be added to the communication plan, let Shannon or I know, and we'll get it on there. Okay. So the big topic for all schools right now is what are you going to do? There's the big three, summer school, graduation, and coming back to school. You got three big decisions to make this summer. Typically, we don't make these decisions. So most summers, it's that time to relax. Summer school's on autopilot. Graduation's already done. And you know you're coming back to school at a certain date. So this is the unusual summer that we have big decisions to make. We thought we had our graduation decision done. This announcement may be, and Joe or Phil, would y'all like to come up and talk about potentially some updates to graduation? Go ahead and give them what you thought like 2 hours ago, and then the change since then. So.
Well, before 3 o'clock, we had a plan laid out, social distancing, how that was going to happen. You saw what went out for the parents, for the public. And so after 3 o'clock, with the governor opening things back up, I think the best thing for us to do is to follow suit, take the limits off for the guests, for the graduates, let the families come. What I would like to put out there, though, is if those who still want to social distance, bring your own chairs. There's plenty of room on either side of the bleachers. I guess they haven't been out there in the last week or so, but I'm assuming the other side concrete's poured. But
that's being worked right now, and then we'll have the new bleachers there for those individuals.
So there's plenty of room. But I think with what he announced today, I don't know if you have seen that or read it, but he lifted restrictions. Missouri's open for business, and the only thing he said was, still, in large group gatherings, probably do a little social distancing. He still said, it's still there, it hadn't gone away, but we're lifting those. So I think with that in place, I think we can do the same thing, leaving it outside. I think that's the right thing to do if we're going to do that, and just encourage them if they want to social distance, bring your own chairs, you can do that, and we'll still do that a little bit with the graduates as best we can, but I think that's where we are currently with graduation.
Joe made contact with Missouri S&T, and they offered for no charge to loan their portable stage for our graduation, and they're actually going to help deliver. And so that's a great neighborly thing of the university, so appreciate that.
They're going to deliver and show us how to set it up, and I think it's a big stage, so that'll be nice.
And we're actually going to go take a look. Rolla is using it as well for their graduation on Saturday, so we're going to take a little trip tomorrow and just see what it looks like, and so we can prepare a little bit more for that. So pretty excited about that.
And being outside, the plans would be if it looks like it's going to rain on that Friday, we'll have to make that call a day or two ahead and just push it back a day. If we have to push back another day, having it on Friday allows us still to keep it on a weekend for those that travel, so.
Any graduation questions for Joe or Phil?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I saw that, I think more guidelines are coming out Friday, is that right? Are we having the kids sit next to each other? I mean, is there no social distancing then at all required from Governor Parsons? Is that what he's saying?
He encouraged people to still follow that
Okay,
in large settings,
okay.
gatherings.
So where are kids gonna be?
I think one thing we would do with our kids probably is still try to space them out as much as we can, but I think by allowing parents and families the option.
Right, because I know it's a big controversy, how serious this
Yeah.
is with people, you know, and whether or not you should social distance or not. So that you're giving them the option, right, to sit out
The
on the sides
public,
if they
yeah.
want to, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the seniors are gonna be on the field, on the track, is that correct?
They'll be both. I
Field-
think we still have to keep them spaced out,
That's what I wondered,
because families have the option to sit how they want to.
right.
But we've got all those kids, we're still gonna space them out, so they'll be both. They'll be down on the field track. Stage will be back towards 50 in the middle of the field. We have to get out there ahead of time and see how that'll lay out with 130 graduates, but
Are we not expecting any county or city? I mean,
wait and
Have
see.
you touched base
I'm not
with
gonna put
various-
anything out yet till,
Yes, I wondered.
Okay.
Because I think, didn't it say it was left up to county, local officials and commissioners?
they
county
leave it up to
commissioners?
the local.
Okay,
Yeah, as, they can't hear you there, Phil, but Phil's, had made contact today, and so there's gonna be, they're gonna follow up. So we, you know, we think, we're making assumptions, we're gonna get more information. And then there's gonna be a message that we're gonna put out, an official message. But this is live stream, so, you know, we need to be careful for saying it is gonna happen or not. We need to make sure that,
If it would come back that locally, we're still going to you know, then we've got the plans. I guess I ought to cover all that, but the plans on that, we're gonna be, each graduate could have, which you saw, 4 guests. We would have 3 tables at the main gate, alphabetical. I've got that broken down A through N or whatever it is, so as they come in, they just, kind of like a pass list, check in. That way we could monitor to make sure we have the 4. And then we had the bleachers every other row, and then social distance on the rows that they could sit on. And then outside of that, we had the bleachers, we would do the same thing, and then they could bring their own chairs and sit that way. Plan was to have the stage and have half the board on one side, half on the other, distanced. Have the table up there with the diplomas. The student, we'd call them up, they'd come across. They would pick up the diploma. You know, we'd have somebody placing it there, and just to keep all the guidelines in place if that were to stay that way, so.
as of right now, it is that way. And so I think what we'll do is when we get confirmation from the health department, our local Phelps County, in Joe, Phil, and Greg did a capacity on seating capabilities, we would share that information, and they might say, you know what, you can go to 6, or you can go to 8, or they might say, well, we think it's good, you can just, anyone can come. So we're gonna take their recommendations.
We pushed the limits on what we could get into our bleachers. Truly, every other row isn't meeting the 6, you know, but in order to accommodate our people as much, to put it in perspective, we're allowing 4 guests per graduate. And an example, I won't say who it is, and high school relatively close to us, much larger, not Rolla. They're around 1,200 students or so, and they're only allowing 5 guests per graduate, and they have way more seating than we do, and so ours, we figured it was 380 something we could get into our bleachers, allowing 4 per graduate. We would need, 520, so that gave us about 140, 70 on each side of the bleachers. So we were able to do that, comfortably. So we felt like 4 was pretty fair, but compared to what other schools are doing.
Based on our circumstances with our seating.
We have not a lot of seating out there in the bleachers, so.
Any other questions about graduation?
We'll watch, we'll see, and things change, we'll make the adjustment.
This is the typical COVID way. Make plans and then last minute change everything. So, thank you. Speaking of that, going back to the seated summer school, we have announced that the first day is going to be Monday, July the 6th. There's going to be 3 weeks of 5 days of summer school, and then the last week will be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, which Wednesday will be the 29th. And so we're planning on that happening. We have a lot of students in the elementary. We have some at the middle school, and we have a few high school, and looking forward to it. They're working on staffing right now, and we're going to be able to have a seated summer school, not to make money, but to stay even and give students opportunities that definitely need that summer slide is like times 3, right? A lot of people are thinking. So we'll keep everyone updated because those plans will also be changing. And then the fall session, we're still working hard on that right now, but trying to get the messages out about seated summer school and graduation. A survey has been made, and we're planning on sending that out for parents to let us know their thoughts about seated summer school, how comfortable they are about sending their kids back to school, how comfortable they are about riding a bus, the different options. Would they be comfortable with back in the classroom? Would they lean towards a blended format? Would they lean towards all virtual? So all those questions are going to be out there. The big thing is parents of younger students, the primary grades. It's really difficult for those kids to have a staggered schedule. How are you going to do that? That seems complicated, and doesn't seem like that's what's best for kids. So we know it's not. We hope that we don't have major restrictions. We really want school to come back on August the 25th like a normal day. That's our goal. So,
Merlin, on the seated summer school, are we waiting to see what the mayor and county commissioners say about the seating and all that?
yes, I mean, the same thing.
Same way with the graduation?
Yeah, we've made the contact with the county, and we're going to give them our plans, and they're going to say, good idea, not a good idea. Maybe you should require masks, maybe you should do the, maybe keep your social distancing. Yes, tell your transportation director that you can only have 14 kids on a bus, things like that. So, yes, we've definitely stayed in contact. In our statewide, MASA has done a really, really good job, the Administrators Association, with keeping us up to date with what the state guidelines and expectations are. So we're all working together because we're all in the same boat. But I go back to the schools that did go ahead and do seated summer school in June, and things are going okay for the seated summer school. I haven't heard anything negative so far. So it is happening. I don't know how many, but there's several districts in the state that have seated summer school going on right now.
They've already started it.
They've already started. They did a June summer school. Yes. So the survey is going to be going out for returning back to school in the fall, and that's going to get the conversation started in the community. And then we can, once we get that information back, then we can develop our plan that we will disseminate, communicate, and then we'll get some new news and we'll dump that and start over again. So So, moving on to the MSBA board report, many of the same topics that they've discussed, that we've already discussed here tonight, and just the return to school plans. They did, the commissioner did request that there be a waiver to the statute of the school start date. And so schools can start earlier than August 24th now. I don't feel that we want to do that at St. James. Let's just keep our schedule that's been approved, our calendar's been approved, leave it where it's at, and just plan on coming back. There's already enough confusion out there. Let's just keep it where we're at right now. Not very many schools I know of are taking advantage of that. So, MSBA conference is still scheduled for the board. That's in Kansas City. That's a trip. So that's something that we'll more than likely have to discuss as we get closer to that. We're still planning on going to that. Obviously, if we have a district-wide shutdown on travel, that's something we might have to discuss. You know, there's requirements for a new board member, John Rapp. He might have to go. And delegate might have to go, but discussion for everyone else maybe not. So that's something to discuss later. And the one thing I did discuss was the newly elected board members, which we have one, 18 and a half hours of training. So he's already on it. We had a great new board member orientation today with Carl and myself and John, and had some good conversations. So we're looking forward to having John on the board. I think he brings a great perspective. So we got a good board all around. That's it. Any questions?
Nothing for Dr. Johnson. We do have a couple of items that we need to go to closed session for. I would like a motion to go to closed session for personnel issues.
I'll make the motion.
Got a motion? Got a second from Tim? Those in favor, raise your hand. All are for. We are going to closed session. Thanks everyone for coming and attending the meeting. We'll see you again next month, if not sooner.